Coach Prime. I mean, how did
Oh,
you and Coach Prime start your relationship?
ironically, he still was in the league. I think it must have been 2002. I was still in Macon at the time, and I was invited to do a men's conference in Washington, D.C. And both he and I were invited to speak at the conference. For it was also television taping, and I got a chance to officially meet him. And we met each other, we exchanged pleasantries, and kind of just hit it off from the very beginning. We just kind of it was just a good, it connected very well, and and that's when it started about 20 years ago, in 2003, and I think it was the summer of 2003, and when I was still in Macon at Beulah, and from there we would see each other periodically. But then in 2013, I was preaching at a conference in Dallas, and he came to hear me speak. And at that conference is where we really just connected, and we become close since then. He had a school down there. He was looking out for young men who were kind of troubled. And I would send some of the kids from my community in Atlanta to his program, try to get them back on track. And he helped a few of those kids just to get their minds together, to get the discipline. And 3 or 4 of them end up getting Division I scholarships after spending time with him. And so we've been connected and building our relationship the past 10 years. Then a few years ago, when his pastor passed away, and his pastor was a friend of mine, he reached out to me and just kind of down. He said he'd been praying about it, and said that he felt that, God was leading him to ask me to become his pastor. And we prayed about it, and I agreed. And so for the past 4 years, 5 years, I've been serving in that capacity.
So you got to see the man that everybody knows as Neon Deion, or Coach Prime now, if you will. You got to see him as just himself, and explain how that is a lot of bit outside the cameras and all the lights.
It's really a beautiful thing, and yet it's an unfortunate thing that most people make observations based upon what they see on television, and they have no idea about the real core of a person. And especially in the social media age, it gives everybody an opinion, and people think that you know, he's all about himself. Some people, or he's this, he's that. They have no idea that's all about marketing. It's all about image. It's all for TV. It's all for commercialization. He's been that way since he was in high school. He formed this identity because at a time in his life he didn't have support. When his mother was not able to come see him play in his sports when he was younger because she was working. His father-in-law was otherwise occupied, so he was by himself. His mother was not able to come see him. He worked 2 or 3 jobs, so he didn't have family support. So he had to learn how to show up for himself, and that was in high school. He was, of course, all-state high school, all-state basketball, all-state track, all-state football. So that's where prime time came from. It came really from a place of hurt and trauma, that he had to motivate, we could say, psych himself out. So that's where it came from. And since that time, going to Florida State, he continued that because at that time, cornerbacks didn't get paid much money. And so he felt that that was all part of the marketing process to bring attention. But at the core of the person is somebody who will give you the shirt off their backs. The core of the person is somebody who will help anybody. The core of the person is somebody who wants to see everybody succeed. Unfortunately, people don't get a chance to see that. It's almost like they see WrestleMania or Ric Flair, and Ric Flair had that flamboyance. That's for TV. That's for marketing. That's for the entertainment side of it. Right. But that's not who a person is. And I think, it teaches us a lesson that until you know a person, don't go by your observations, because you really don't know what's behind it. But that marketing ploy has helped him to become what he is.
Now you got a chance to go to Jackson State and see him flourish there, and now he's in Boulder, Colorado. Talk about just the electricity that has been there and just how it's probably been mind blowing for you to even see how things have come to fruition.
You know, when he was at Jackson, you know, me being a graduate of an HBCU, I was so excited. And his dream has always been to be a Power Five coach. And I believe he probably would have stayed at Jackson another year or two had situations been different. Unfortunately, you know, as a football coach, some things are beyond your control. And so some things happened with one or two individuals that made it just difficult for him to continue there. And so when this opportunity came, uh, you know, we talked about, man, don't disparage Jackson because he did a wonderful job at Jackson. Brought a lot to Jackson, made a lot of sacrifices for Jackson. Jackson State helped him to get on the map when others wouldn't hire him. And that's why I always love my HBCUs. And so it's time for him to pursue his dream. And we talked about it. He called me about it. He had a lot of options. And I told him, I said, man, God has never sent you into a place that's already established. You know, when you came to Atlanta, drafted as the 4th overall pick, you know, you've gone into places to help build it. With the Jackson, you have to build it. And so going into a place that's already established, maybe God always sends his best into the worst situations. And to be honest with you, I believe Colorado was the worst of the job opportunities. A few others offered him positions, South Florida, Cincinnati, he had another few others on the table. But that was, to me, the worst program. That was the most unlikely program for Florida and Texas boy to go into. And like I told him, God sends his best into the worst situations. And if God sends you to it, he'll grace you to get through it. And so the world is watching Colorado. I mean, all that on the sidelines is like a who's who because it's been something that's good for the culture. It's been healing for people. It's brought races together. Sports have a way of galvanizing people, bringing people together for that moment. And it's been good to see because so many people love him and they want to see him do well. And we don't have very many African-American Power 5 coaches. That's the opportunity I was looking at. And it shows that we do have ability, that we are capable. And he's going to be successful wherever he goes because he's Deion Primetime Sanders. And people are praying for him. People believe in it. And people know his heart.